Hey y'all, welcome. We are getting started on our book club here for Time Management for Mortals by Oliver Berkman. I'm really excited to be here with y'all. We're running a little bit late, which is always the great irony when we're talking about time. One of the great themes of this book is that there never quite seems to be enough time. And I'm so excited to be doing this book club. If you want to join the book club, you can. It's free. You just comment book club here or send me an email. But the beauty of this book is that I think Oliver Berkman speaks to some implicit assumptions that we have about time that just absolutely make us miserable. And one of the great themes for me for this new year is I have three goals that I've set. The first goal is to have a radical embrace of my limitations. And I've realized that there's so many times that I think that I can do so much more than I actually can. And this is one of the early things that I learned when I was looking at kind of becoming more effective in my time management is that we as humans, we just have an absolutely terrible skill at actually predicting how long something's going to take, and how long we'll get through it. And so this list of to-dos just grows longer and longer and longer, and then we feel really inadequate. And so one of my big something else I'm learning is that you really can't do anything meaningful without excluding a whole lot of other really good things. And that's one of the main focuses of this first chapter. Um, so the reason that I'm doing this book study on this book is because this book really did change my life. There was this time that it was years ago, actually. I had really wanted to get into grad school. I wanted to get a PhD, which I'm not anymore. But that was my hope. And I remember I was waking up at 3:30 in the morning to study. So I was studying for the GRE. I was working till probably about 6, and then I would get ready and I would go to work. And then after work, I would come home. I would study for a couple more hours. I had a full caseload of clients, and I would go to bed and I would do the same thing over and over again. And I believe that, right, if I wanted something bad enough, I could achieve it. I really believe that all you have to have is willpower. And I think that can be true in a lot of cases. But I remember so clearly this day when I was I was burnt out. I was working so hard, working two jobs, studying for the GRE, trying to write, letters for to get into doctoral programs. And my wife told me one evening, she looked at me and she said, John Paul, I'm pregnant. And I really get choked up talking about it right now because one of my first reactions when she said that to me was, "Oh shit, oh no, like please no." And I was so tied up, so locked in to this agenda that I had, to this plan that I had, to these wants that I had, to trying to make everything fit. And what I learned from that moment was that I didn't want to be in that place again. I didn't want to be so strapped thin, trying to do so much for my family and yet not actually available to them. And so it was that moment when I realized, like, hey, something's got to budge because this is some of the most exciting news I've ever received that I was going to have a son. And yet I was like, oh no, this is a problem. And so that's when I kind of started realizing, like, hey, JP, like, something's not right here. I started realizing that I live in seasons and it's easy for me to say, like, oh, this is just a season of the grind or this is just a season of the work. But then I realized, like, hey, that's every season. Part of what I learned was that I can't have everything. And that's what I love about 4,000 Weeks. That's what I love about this book. That's why I'm doing this book study, is because there's two different types of freedom. And there's one form of freedom which we're really familiar with in the States, we're really familiar with in the West. And that's the idea that freedom comes about from me being able to do what I want, to achieve what I want, to pursue what I want, to own land, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, right? This is one type of freedom. But there's another type of freedom, which we, especially in the States, are not very familiar with. We are not very developed in, and it's kind of spiritual freedom. It's the type of freedom that means I can be free from my desires. So there's a type of freedom to get what we desire, but there's also a type of freedom that says, I can be happy even when I don't have what I want. And this second type of freedom is something that we are woefully inadequate at. We are so used to kind of being told this idea that if you want it bad enough, you can do it. We're told you can have it all. And we can't. Why? Because we're humans. We're limited. And that's what the whole title of this book is about. 4,000 weeks. If you live to be 80 years old, that's 4,000 weeks of life. And so I wrote it down here, right? I'm 30 years old. And so that means I have 2,436 weeks of life left. If you're 40 years old, you have 1,913 years of life left. If you're 50 years old and you're going to live till you're 80, you have 1,392 weeks of life left. If you're 60, you have 870 weeks of life left. If you're 70, you have 348 weeks. We are limited. And as long as we are ignoring our limitations, we make ourselves miserable. As long as we live in denial of the fact that we're going to die, we live in denial of the fact that we're human. And so what's so liberating about this book, 4,000 Weeks, is that he teaches us that productivity is failed. The productivity lifestyle, the sense that you can do it all. You just have to have a morning routine. Now, granted, I love my morning routine, guys. Like, I am a morning routine preacher. But the idea that you're going to get to this point and you just get to set and forget your life and everything's going to be okay, the idea that you're going to get to this point where you can do it all, that's what we believe. And he talks about how time management isn't really so much about getting things done. It's about getting the right things done. Because in order to do anything, it means that we have to miss out and let go of doing almost everything else. And so he goes straight to the point in this introduction called In the Long Run, We're All Dead. There's a beautiful reflection that I found. My wife and I recently moved into this old house. Beautiful house. It needs so much work. Don't buy an old home. It's not as fun as it looks. But I remember working. I was scraping paint, and we were getting ready to paint, and I just remember thinking to myself, "Wow, in 100 years, in 150 years, some young person is probably going to see this house just like me, move on, and they'll never even know I existed." Our life is so short, and I don't think that means like then go out and live it for all it's got, because that doesn't work either, right? We can't just ignore responsibilities. There are things that we have to live and that we have to do. But what it does mean is intentionality. There is no flourishing life without intentionality. And intentionality means saying no to almost everything. We have to learn how to feel our limitations. We have to learn to acknowledge that we don't get to live forever. This life has a beginning and it has an end. And we don't know when that's going to come. I think the idea that we are going to die can be kind of an abstract idea. And one of the practices that I like is actually in the mornings. I used to do this a lot. I haven't done it so much recently. But I would take about 5 minutes after doing my yoga and I would lay there and I would imagine this. I would say, okay, one day my wife is going to die. My son is going to die. My little daughter, 1 year old, she's going to die. My parents are going to die. My friends are going to die. We all will return to the dust that we came from. And if we're scared of that and so we ignore it, we will never live a meaningful life. Because meaningful life is on the other side of confronting our death. And so what I love about 4,000 Weeks in this book and why I'm doing this book study is because Our culture is so focused on outputs and productivity, and he has a line in here. He says it follows from this that time management broadly should be everyone's chief concern. Arguably, time management is all that life is. Yet the modern discipline known as time management, like its hipper cousin, productivity, is a depressingly narrow-minded affair. It's focused on how to crank through as many work tasks as possible, or on devising the perfect morning routine, or on cooking all your dinners in the week on one big batch on Sundays. These things matter to some extent, that's no doubt. But they're hardly all that matters. The world is bursting with wonder. And yet it's the rare productivity guru who seems to have considered the possibility that the ultimate point of all our frantic doing might actually be to experience more of that wonder. This book, 4,000 Weeks, is an attempt to help redress the balance, to see if we can't discover or recover some way of thinking about time that do justice to our real situation, to the outrageous brevity and the shimmering possibilities of our 4,000 weeks. We've been granted the mental capacity to think almost infinitely about our ambitious plans, about our excitement. And yet, practically, we have no time to do them at all. And he quotes Seneca as saying, "This space that has been granted to us rushes by so speedily and so swiftly that all save a very few find life at an end just when they're getting ready to live." We can't do it all. We just can't. And so what I love about Time Management for Mortals is it's not another book about how to get more done. It's a book that asks the hard question of, if I can only do a limited amount of things, what's worth doing? What are some of the mental traps that I'm stuck in? As he says in Life on a Conveyor Belt on section 5, he says that it feels like this busyness has been rebranded as hustle. Relentless work, not as a burden, but as an exhilarating lifestyle. We see it all the time. I mean, how many times do I see Alex Hormozy saying that he loves to work 14 hours and you just gotta want it bad enough? But surely this can't be living. And I think that's what we've lost touch with, that we need to slow down, that the only place is to be here. We only have a limited amount of time. So what are we going to do it? And these questions can be scary. But that's the whole point of asking them, is that if we don't face them, then we'll be running around in fear. It's hard to imagine a crueler arrangement. Not only are our 4,000 weeks constantly running out, but the fewer of them we have left, the faster they seem to go by. As we get older, time seems to fly by faster and faster and faster. All of this makes it especially frustrating that so many of us are so bad at managing our limited time, that our efforts to make the most of our time, they don't simply fail, but they regularly make things worse. Our culture, are we not burnt out by optimization? Are we not burnt out by more? Like, isn't it time that we just say, what is enough? Can I be happy with enough? I love this line that he says, "It turns out that when people make enough money to meet their needs, they just find new things to need and a new lifestyle to aspire to. They never quite manage to keep up with the Joneses, because whenever they're in danger of getting close, they nominate new and better Joneses with whom to keep up with." It's called the hedonic treadmill. This tendency to see something and say, I want that thing will make me happy, whether it be a house, whether it be a marriage, whether it be a new pair of shoes or a car or a new job. When I get that thing, I'll be happy. When I get that thing, I'll be happy. When I get that thing, I'll be happy. This life on the conveyor. And then we get it and we go back to our baseline. Happiness is not about what we have. It's about the freedom to be here. And so long as we say, I need these things in my life to change in order to be here, we are forfeiting our happiness. We're saying control will give me happiness, but control can only give us so much. He talks about these productivity techniques. It's not that they don't work. The life hacks, the waking up, the having a morning routine, it's not that they don't work. It's that the productivity hacks, they do work in the sense that they'll help you get more done. They'll help you race to more meetings, fare your kids to after school activities, generate more profit for your employer. And yet, paradoxically, you only feel busier, more anxious, and somehow emptier as a result. As the American anthropologist Edward T. Hall once pointed out, time feels like an unstoppable conveyor belt, bringing us new tasks faster than we can dispatch with the old ones. And becoming more productive, it just seems to cause the belt to speed up or to break down. How many of us know what it feels like to feel that deep burnout, right? There's something called adrenal fatigue, which is when your nervous system is so burnt out, you quite literally don't have the energy anymore. The maddening truth about time, and what most advice seems to miss, is that it's like an obstreperous toddler. The more you struggle to control time, to make time conform to your agenda, the further time slips from your control. The answer isn't in getting more things done. It's not about getting more effective with the emails or managing our time better, though that can be important. The issue is about getting the right things done. You'll never get on top of your to-do list. The to-do list will only ever continue to grow longer. And so what we need to learn how to do is to choose how to get the right things done. That's what he says on the section on getting the wrong things done. Even those of us, he says, who are relatively privileged, don't ever manage to get around to doing the things that we most value or that we say we value. Charles Eisenstein, I can never get these names right, says he was a young boy when he said, life I knew was supposed to be more joyful than this, more real, more meaningful. And the world was supposed to be more beautiful. We were not supposed to hate Mondays and live for the weekends. We're not supposed to have to raise our hands to be allowed to pee. We're not supposed to be kept indoors on beautiful day after beautiful day. And the more we try to become more productive, the more we actually push what's important farther onto the horizon. We try to get through things in order to enjoy our time, but then the enjoyment just gets pushed longer and longer and longer. As Marilyn Robinson says, the spirit of our times is one of joyless urgency. Many of us spend our lives preparing ourselves and our children to be means to inscrutable ends that are utterly not our own. 4,000 Weeks is yet another book about making the best use of time, but it's written in the belief that time management as we know it has failed miserably, and that we need to stop pretending otherwise. Productivity is a trap. Becoming more efficient just makes you more rushed, and trying to clear the decks just makes them fill up again even more quickly. We have to admit that the day will never come when we have everything under control. That's a fantasy, and it's a trap. And so what Oliver Berkman invites us to do is to begin by admitting defeat. You're not God. I'm not God. I can't do it all. I can't read every book. But as soon as I just say, I'm just going to enjoy this one, I'm able to actually enjoy this one. Think about it. It doesn't matter how beautiful a view is if our mind is elsewhere. It is important to learn how to do things effectively. But so long as we fail to understand that we're limited, it's going to be an endless trap. That feeling of not being on top of things, it's not a personal failure. It's about how it feels to be human. This uncertain life with uncertainty around every corner. As Eric Fromm says, our task isn't to feel secure, but rather to tolerate insecurity. And when we confront the fact that we're going to die, that we only have 2,000 weeks of life left, we actually get permission to live it here well. When we realize that the sun's rising today, I don't know how many times I'll see the sun rise, we pay attention a little bit more sharply. As Sam Harris says, we are always doing things for the last time. It's so helpful, especially with kids, right? At bedtime, it's so easy for me to think like, okay, let's just get you to bed. Let's skip the pages. Let's get to the end. Let's put you down to bed so I can breathe. Something that's been so helpful when I'm sitting with my son and my daughter and I'm putting them to bed is to think to myself, what if this was the last time that I got the privilege to read a book to my child? And I'm moved by that. I'm brought to be present here. More is not the answer. We're burnt out by more. Better isn't the answer. Better and better and better never ends. Here, this is the answer. Right here, right now. Learning to step back from these beliefs that tell us that we need something else, that we need to do something else. And also learning to be here even amidst the chaos of life, of having to work, of having to make money, of having to provide. It's not that we're saying those things don't matter. It's saying we need to learn how to put first things first. We need to learn how to commit and act based on our values so that our life is actually a reflection of what we say we believe. It means putting in time in my calendar to be with the kids, just like I would treat that as a work meeting or just like I would treat that as working with a client. My friends, we just cannot have it all. And that's a scary bridge to step over. But the freedom to be limited on the other side, the freedom to be like, oh yeah, I'm a human. I can't do it all. I can only do so much. It really is liberating. And so here in this introduction, we're all dead in the long run. We're all dead in the long run. In 3 generations, nobody will know our names. And that's okay. Because what we are is we're here. And learning how to be here is learning to live a full life. Learning to face the fact that we're going to die, learning to face the uncertainty of life is actually what brings meaning and excitement. There is no meaning in our choice without limitedness and death. Because if we could do anything, then nothing would matter. If we could do whatever we wanted, then I could say yes to this day and no to this that day. It wouldn't really matter. But it's the very fact that we are finite, that we're limited, that actually empowers us to make a choice that's worth something. Learning how to manage the weight of that choice, well, that's something we can learn to do. So this is an introduction to 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals by Oliver Berkman. And next week, tune in next Friday, we will be working through chapter 1, I love chapter 1. It's so well put out there. Chapter 1 is, The Limit Embracing Life, page 17 to 37. If you wanna join the book club, please comment "book club," and I'll add you to the mailing list where I'll share these reflections and videos each week. And then I wanna invite you guys to share the things that you, have reflected on either during this conversation or during the reading. We start the book club at 12:15 on, Fridays. So please, yeah, share your reflections. Please share any questions that you have. Um, I love how the approach of existentialism was once seen so extreme, and with more time and experience, we see how helpful a tool it is. Yeah, right. W- we have to learn to recognize our limitedness. And the existentialist psychologist said that all of our psychological defenses are a result of our attempts to avoid our limitedness and death. Because when we're young, when we're children, our limitedness is very scary. We're so dependent on our parents that we have to avoid our limitedness. And so what we do is we project limitlessness on our parents. We think, oh, they're so powerful, they can do everything because we're so dependent. And then as we grow older and older and older, some of that can shift. This is one of the reasons why we can believe that there's people out there that have it all together, because it's just another continued projection from our childhood. But when we can realize, like, oh, my parents never had it together, and neither will I. But what I can learn to do is to live intentionally now, things start to shift rather than comparing ourselves to some person out there who has it all together. Our the book study starts at 12:15, and we usually go for about 45 minutes. So I love how you said that being present is more important than achieving the goal. Enjoying the book to the journey towards goals. This is something that's really interesting. Please continue to share your reflections here. Is that dopamine? We all know dopamine's the feel good chemical. But dopamine is not released so much when you achieve a goal. Dopamine is actually the reward for pursuing goals. This is one of the reasons why we can feel so empty when we achieve our goals. Because we've worked so hard and we've gotten rewarded for moving towards that thing, rewarded to moving towards that thing, rewarded to moving towards that thing. And then we get there and we feel empty. I remember this is how I felt when I got married. I felt so disappointed afterwards. Um, I learned to realize, like, oh, it's not marriage that makes you happy. It's the married. It's me and my wife actually working together, and I have a flourishing. I love my wife. Very happy marriage. But it's not because something that marriage is. It's because of a way of living that my wife and have committed to with each other. And what it brings up is that there's this idea of instrumentalism. Instrumentalism is the belief that things are good because of what they bring about. And this is largely the way that we think in our culture in the United States. We think that something's good if it does good for me, or something's good if it creates goodness for me. A car is good if it gets me from point A to point B. But if everything is a means to an end, if everything is just an instrument to achieve some goal, life is just an endless conveyor belt of striving and striving and striving and striving. And that can't be how life is. And this is where Aristotle said that there are also things that are good in and of themselves. He called them constituent goods because their very nature constitutes what's good. Something like friendship. Friendship is not good because it brings about all these mental health benefits. It's good because it's in its very nature. Right? Human beings, you are not good because of what you bring about. You are good because of how you are as a human. And our instrumental culture looks at everything as input and output. And this is one of the reasons why we miss the fact that, like, oh no, a flower is beautiful because it's a flower. There are things that are just good because they exist. The present moment is one of these things. You don't have to mine the present moment. You don't have to use your time well. In fact, there's a big part of life that's learning to release ourselves from the pressure to use time well. That time's not a resource. It's a wave that we're riding. It's not something that we get to mold and manipulate. It's something that we get to surf with and glide. And so it's a really interesting reflection I want to invite you to ask yourself about is how many of the things in my life do I do to bring about an effect? And how many of the things in my life do I do simply because I enjoy them? How many things in my life do I do to try to get rid of the anxiety? How many things in my life do I actually do because they're good to do? This is something that I think can get so missed in the mental health world, especially when people are in therapy. We can't continue to perpetuate this belief that you can only be happy after you work through your problems. That's not how this life works. You're never going to work through all your problems. No, we need to learn. Of course, we can be constrained and we can be challenged to be fully present by overwhelming pain and difficulty, but we have to learn that, like, no, there has to be a place right here for me, no matter what kind of difficulty or emotions or challenges I have. I do have the capacity to be happy right here. And so what we can see is there's kind of this like bottom up and top down approach. There's this top down approach to life that says, I need to get these things in place and that'll make me happy. And there's also this bottom up approach that says, like, no, I really can be happy now by letting go and being free. And the top down approach is about developing control. And the bottom up approach is about developing surrender. And we need both. Life is the balance of effort and surrender. Too much effort and we become like a closed fist. That's where our society is right now. Too little effort, we're not even able to take care of ourselves. And so we do need to learn how to control ourselves. But as Oliver Berkman says in the book, like that has to be anchored in something else. It can't just all be for like something else. It has to also be about being right here and being right now. And he says, love the dopamine explanation, but then what do we do when we achieve a goal? Move to a new goal? Or what hormone is released at this stage? How to enjoy the moment of achieving the goal. We realize that the goal is not the end, it's just part of the journey. How you get there is where you will arrive. And if you get to a goal by anticipating how good it's going to be, anticipating how good it's going to be, anticipating how good it's going to be, you are training your mind in the habit of anticipating the future. So then when you get to that goal, you are actually already in the habit of anticipating the future. And so it's going to take you out of that moment. And so rather, if you can learn to be present in the moment here with the difficulty, you will be able to be there with the goal that you achieve it when it comes. And also to let that goal flow away. Life is never going to be this static moment of happiness. When things flatline, we're dead. Quite literally, the heart beats up and down. When things flatline, we're dead. Instead, what we want to learn is how to be like water to navigate around the difficulties. It's not just about achieving our goals, it's about how we're living right now. It's certainly a paradigm shift to know that I have about 1,400 weeks left to live. It's creating a little panic inside of me to think and know I have very limited time. Yes, it is. It's scary to realize we only have like 1,400 weeks. But here's the thing, that was already true. You were already limited. You just didn't know it yet. And the panic comes when we realize that we can't do it all. The peace comes when we give up trying to do everything. And instead we ask like, oh, okay, well, if I can't do it all, what is worth doing? What is worth doing imperfectly? And even choosing that often is imperfect. So if there's any other final, I would love to hear any other thoughts, questions, reflections. How you get there is where you'll arrive. And we live in our culture in a constant state of striving and hoping and grasping. And so even when we get the thing that we hope for, we're grasping for something else. In this hedonic treadmill, something else to fill the object of desire, something else to fill the object of desire. We think freedom is about getting the things that we desire. We think freedom is about having the control to get the things that we desire. But there's a greater freedom in being free from desire, being free from the need to control, being free, as Eric Fromm says, our task is not to feel secure, but rather to tolerate insecurity. And so thank you all here for being here. I'm so grateful that you joined me. Comment book club if you'd like to join the book club. I'll be sending the this recording out tomorrow morning. I'll be sent if you want the whole recording, you just comment book club and join the email book club. Next Friday at 12:15, we will be talking about chapter 1. Yeah, next Friday we'll be doing the limited embracing life at 12:15. So thank you so much for being here. Um, it's really a pleasure to read this with you, to share this with you, and to have a radical embrace of our humanity. And if anybody's interested, I'm also running a group, a what's called a process group to help be more present. It's called Practicing Presence. So if you're interested in working in a group format with a very small, intimate group, I will be running that. We'll be starting here in the next few weeks. So you can see that on my website or on my bio. It's called Practicing Presence, or you can just DM me PP26 if you want to join the waitlist. So thank you so much all for being here. And I really hope you take good care. Keep it real, keep it raw, and keep it radically human. All right, y'all. Peace.